Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Solo Spotlight. I'm your host, Ryan McDougall, and today's guest, Nick Von Wackerbarth, podcaster turned stand up. Today, we talk about consistency, creative guts, and making the grind pay. We talk podcast, getting to the stand up stage pipeline, the Edmonton scene, bombing with grace, and what's next for Nick. Links to Nick's podcast, shows are in the description. Subscribe, rate, and drop your favorite moment in the comments. Let's get to it. Nick Von Wackerbarth. Yeah, we're live.
We're live, baby.
We're live. Nick, there. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. A fellow podcaster,
Yes,
stand-up comedian. You've been doing it for 5 times longer than I have, so I'm really excited and hopefully the audience can get something just as much as I'm gonna get something. Because some of these episodes, it's like a selfish thing where it's like, oh, I'm only bringing this guy on to talk shop, and it doesn't really nobody else really gives a shit about it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, man, how are you? How was getting here?
Oh, getting here was easy. This is the most convenient podcast location. I live just on the other side of the Remand Center there. So it's
awesome.
Beautiful. When I looked it up, usually I'm used to driving 35, 40 minutes to get to someplace.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it last night where it was, I was like, oh, what a gift.
Yeah.
I can get there in 10 minutes. Blessed. Don't have to get up because my stand-up comedy sleep schedule does not allow usually anything before noon. I'm a zombie, right?
Yeah.
But didn't have to get up that extra early, got to get a good sleep. It was great.
That's awesome. Yeah. For people that don't know who you are, they're seeing you for the first time or haven't seen any of your stand-up, how would you describe yourself wearing this many hats?
Oh, I'm a silly guy. I think within the realm of podcasting, what describes me the most is just someone who is obsessed with podcasts. Podcasts changed my life a couple of years ago. I was in a weird place. I had gone to university, had a much different experience than what I grew up in a small town, and felt very lost. Just didn't know. I knew who I was, but I didn't know where I fit in anymore. I feel like those 4 years I was in university, everything had changed a lot in my hometown. All my friends were doing different things. I didn't really fit in. I was really desperate for those deep conversations, that intellectual nourishment. And I was doing a lot of work where I was on Excel all the time. I was just kind of locked in a little broom closet under the stairs in Harry Potter style. And I needed something to entertain myself while I was building all these sheets. And I just lucked into podcasts. I went into audiobooks first and was just crushing them. Found that if you speed them up, you can get through them faster. Started getting better at listening to things faster and faster. And then I ran out of all the audiobooks that were free on YouTube. And I was like, well, I've heard of these podcasts. I'll give them a try. And I found, what was the first one? I think it was Nerdist. And they had the first 100 episodes free on YouTube. And I crushed through those on 2 times speed, super fast, just was a menace with it. And then just decided to try a bunch of different ones. I found Joe Rogan, started listening to him, all the guests he would have on that had podcasts, I started listening to them. And it just really, I'm also a dirty addict. So I let it control my life. I would listen to just hundreds and hundreds of hours of podcasts, and in a week, just crank them up to a real fast speed. I would do it while I was driving, while I was working out, while I was, had any downtime. I just always had a podcast on. That still remains to this day. I've got it a little bit more under wraps now that I'm doing, once you start podcasting yourself, that eats up so much of your time. Especially once I started stand-up, that was so life-changing, just the structure of your life, how much has to go into it, not only every night, that's what you're doing, but then writing during the day, planning things. If you're running a show, it just becomes so overarching to your life that I haven't been able to listen to as much as my heyday back when I first found them. So I think that's one of the biggest things. I love stand-up and I love podcasting. If I'm not doing that, I'm planning my own and doing that. It's kind of, other than that, I'm just a silly goose. I just like to fuck around.
Dude.
Yeah, just a dude.
Just a dude, bro. Man. Listening to it at 2x speed, it's something that I haven't, I get it makes me anxious. Was that something you had to work into? And do you think being able to digest that information almost gave you a leg up in podcasting?
For sure. if people have listened to my podcast, they'll know that this is one of my usual diatribes. I feel very passionately about this subject. I think that like it started with audiobooks, right? And like reading, because I was always a reader. I loved reading growing up. I still love reading when I have the time to do it. But I have this weird, like almost autistic efficiency brain where I need to be efficient with everything I'm doing. And when I started listening to audiobooks, I loved it because I could do it like while I'm working or something, or it's reading, you have to be locked in.
Yeah.
But then I would hate it because I could read so much faster than the audiobook was. So then I would try and speed it up, but then I'd miss things. So then it became like a goal, like a skill. How good can I get at listening, right? Start at 1.5, work your way up to 1.75, 2, 2.5. Now I can listen to things on 3 times speed like nothing.
And is listening to audiobooks and podcasts like, is it different in a way of like trying to track a conversation between tracking a story?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but given that your kind of niche is like in stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
like Rick Glassman is like a very hard person to understand. Like,
Yeah,
this
you
guy's
have to know
serious
you
or
have to
is
know
that-
what he's doing, and you have to appreciate his sense of humor to really get the most out of an episode. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
like,
one of my favorites.
yeah, he's awesome, man. Like, he was one of the guys early. I've been watching this one with Necro Goblicon.
Oh, I've heard of that one, but I haven't checked it out.
Dude, this guy's a silly goose, man.
Yeah?
This guy's a silly goose. He basically is like he pretends to be like a goblin, and then he's like, yeah, when I'm like working in like the whatever, like being like a goblin slave, da 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 da.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I've seen that, and it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on there. I might like it, I might not, but I'm just so overwhelmed trying to keep up with the amount of podcasts I listen to now that it takes a lot for me to add one in. But to go back to your question about like the audiobooks versus podcasts, it's definitely a case by case basis. The more you listen to a podcast, right? Like I got really good at listening to Joey Diaz, for example, right?
Yeah.
I know his rhythm, I know how he speaks, I know all those things, and then I could start to speed it up. But when I start a new podcast, I'm not going to jump into a brand new podcast when I don't know the voice, I don't know what they do, and put it right on 3 times speed. That's something that you build up to. And I do think that it's probably easier to take in story than it is conversation when you're talking audiobooks versus podcasts. But I think, yeah, you just it's a skill like anything else. You get good at it. You get good at taking it in. And that's just how I listen. And it sounds so weird to me when I put on a podcast that I know, or if I jump in someone else's car and they have a podcast and it's speaking at 1 time speed, it feels like
get
slow
to
motion.
the fucking point.
Yeah, it's hard for me to lock in on that. But then if someone jumps in my vehicle and they hear 2 times speed, they can't even handle it. They start to freak out. They're like, what is this? This gives me anxiety, right? But I think what I find cool about it is evolutionarily human beings evolved to take in information auditorily, right? Like writing systems came after it, right? There was thousands and thousands of years where every story, every piece of information was passed down through an oral history, right? Like we can process information through our ears way faster than we can reading script. And I think that's something where if you use that as a skill, you can now be more efficient with how you're taking in information, right? Like that's what I love. If there's a podcast that I really love, some people will say, well, why don't you just slow it down and enjoy it? Well, there's 6 other podcasts I want to listen to. If I can still really enjoy this 3-hour podcast in an hour and 15 minutes, right? Now I can listen to way more podcasts in that available time that I have. Essentially, it's just, I have 50 different podcasts I want to listen to in a week. How many of them can I get through? What's that balance of not getting so fast so it's not enjoyable or you're missing things? And that's different with each individual podcast that I listen to, what speed I'm listening to them at. But I just think it's, I think it's efficient. And then it's so easy to like use that skill in other areas of life. Say your washing machine broke, for example, and you need to watch a quick YouTube video to put it back together. And you'd have to sit there. It's like a 4-minute video. You can watch that in 2 minutes, 2 times speed on YouTube. Just little things where it's not, I don't really need to just take it in or really understand. I just need to get this information fast.
Right.
You can fly through it. I find all kinds of areas in my life that I really appreciate that I put that work in years ago to be able to take in information at that speed. I think everybody should listen at a high speed. Work your way up. Start on 1.25.
Yeah.
You won't even notice it. You'll get better and better.
Yeah, there's definitely some ones where I find like it's easier because you just already know, like, I already know how this guy's going to deliver the questions or
Mhm.
whatever it is. But given your amount of like podcasts that you listen to
Mhm.
and then getting into starting your own in 2020, what was like the blueprint? What were some viable things that you were able to take from established podcasts early on?
100%. I think it was definitely of those two options you gave, kind of forging your own path versus picking and choosing from all the ones I loved. It was definitely the second. I had taken everything that I do is from someone else, right?
Mhm.
But it's because I listened to so many and there's so many people I loved. It was taking just little things from each one and then trying to look at it of what is the overarching thing I love about all of these podcasts, right? Like the time I started my podcast, my favorite ones were probably Joe Rogan and Lex Friedman. Those were like my two biggest ones. Joey Diaz,
Mhm.
right? And the number one thing, that overarching thing that I really wanted to bring of what I loved about podcasts was people that were genuine, open, and spoke with love. Like
Mhm.
that's what it was to me. Of like, they're not doing this podcast for money. They're not doing it for fame. They just really enjoy having these conversations, and even if it wasn't recorded, they would still do this and they would still enjoy it. And
Mhm.
I think that is the most important thing. I think that's what touches people. That's what creates those huge followings like Rogan did, right? He didn't set out to try and become the most famous podcaster in the world. He just enjoyed it and he followed a genuine passion for it, right? And like we were talking before we started recording about, which guests to have on and not chasing, who's going to do this amount of numbers and stuff. Like, I think you have to be cognizant of that stuff. I really try and keep that as far away from my brain as
Mhm.
possible. If I want to have someone on, that's who I'm having on. If I'm going to enjoy the conversation, that's all I care about.
Mhm.
And I just kind of went into it thinking, yeah, that's in the short run, that's going to hurt me because you should be doing all the things, like trying to, make the
Get the celebrities, get the people that are like influencers, and like that was yeah. It's really difficult because, like you said, you don't want to stay into that like the rat race of it,
yeah.
where it's like, oh, I got to do like this, and I got to sell merch, and I got to do
Hmm.
all this shit. But some degree, where like you look at something that makes sense, where it's like, well, now that you're a comedian,
Hmm.
it's like, well, you would be an idiot not to plug your tour dates,
For sure.
right?
Yep.
It's like, but that's like a standard thing where like
Hmm.
some people be like, oh, how authentic, right? Like,
For
so,
sure.
so even if like, because a lot of it's like gross, a lot of like what people do to like obtain, like, I think everything's okay. I'll take that back. I think everything's okay if you have the right intention.
100%.
If you're doing merch and the merch follows your brand and everything makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah. And so then early on, like talk about like doing your first 5 episodes.
So my first 5 episodes was I recorded them all before ever telling anybody I was doing a podcast. The only people in the world that knew I was doing a podcast were, I think, my sister, and then those 5 people that were going to be guests, which I think was my sister, maybe her husband, and then a couple of my close buddies. I didn't really want to tell anybody. I came to podcasting after a really tough time. So I was running a very large business up in Grand Prairie. It was very stressful. Um, Running a business is always stressful. There's always going to be, things that are going wrong. But it just reached kind of a fever pitch once COVID hit, and there were so many extra rules and regulations that came in. There was, it was in the oil field. Everyone remembers what happened to the price of oil during
Yeah.
COVID, right?
Dropped.
It was the first time because I went into that job not straight out of university, but not very far after. So I was doing it as a very young person in an older person's world, essentially, right? You
Mhm.
had to come in, you had to find your, yeah, no worries. Yeah, I kind of had to find my space in that and earn your stripes and have people believe that you could do what you do, and that meant a lot to me. I really valued that these people trusted me that I was going to do a good job, and essentially their livelihoods are in your hands. If you make a bad decision, you can affect people's earning potential.
Yeah.
So when that happened, it just, my job got so much harder and I was super stressed about it, and I was actually mentally not doing too great. And
Mhm.
through that process, I kind of had to really look inside and see what I wanted. And the only thing that was making me happy at that point was listening to podcasts. It was all I wanted to do. And I just decided I'm going to start this. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. I'm going to follow this. I know I
Yeah.
can't explain to people what is making me so sure that this is the right decision, because it's such a complex thing. You don't, especially at that time, not a lot of people understood podcasting and what it could be the way I did, because I had seen so many people that I loved and how much they put into it. And it wasn't just the guest or the marketing or any of that. It was truly who they were as a person and their ability to bring that to bear, and open their soul to people. And that's what connects them. And I was like, oh, I think I can really do that.
Right.
I think that's almost, weirdly enough, what I've been training to do my whole life, just by being so lucky to grow up in like a loving small town with family that love me and created space for you to be who you are and authentic. And, it's okay to cry and be emotional and all those things.
Yeah.
So I really just bet everything on it, like I was doing my job, but I knew, like, in the long run, this is what I want to do. From the moment I decided I was going to try it, I knew it was going to be what I do, at least in some capacity, for the rest of my life. I'm always going to want to have these conversations. And then when I did those first 5 episodes, it just solidified all that. I enjoyed it so much. It felt so right. It was exactly where I wanted to be. And from then on, it was just off to the races, trying to do it.
Just putting reps in.
Yeah, just putting reps in and trying to grow, get better along the way, but also just stay in touch with what you had at the start of, like, what you want to do, of how you want to be represented, and bringing that forward, not letting yourself get lost in what's going to get clips and that. Of like, no, stay locked in. If you're genuinely interested in a person or a topic, go talk about that from your point of view. Don't try and think about what people want to hear or what's going to do numbers or what's going to be interesting to other people. This is your podcast. What interests you? And if you follow that and you do that long enough and you be genuine, you will naturally attract the people. It's a big world. There's going to be people that really like what you got going on. If you can not lose what that is and remain solid in that and do a lot of episodes over time, they will bring them in. And then if you can start doing stuff like what you got here with the amazing camera setup, you may not have been doing it as long as me, but you're light years ahead of me in so many ways, right? Like, maybe I got more reps than you, but you're doing all these things. Like, that's great. And I just kind of see it as, I'm going to do the best I can with my janky ass setup, very basic, just audio, and just get really good at that skill that I appreciated in the podcasters, right? Because it's not like I loved Lex Friedman for his production value.
No.
I don't give a fuck about production value. I love for his heart, right?
Yeah.
If I can work on that, eventually, if I get good enough at it, I will be able to hire people to do that production and bring that level, and then that'll reach even more people. But all my job is to concentrate on creating a skill set that, if it does get in front of someone or in someone's ears, it will connect with them, right? And then later on is the job of, now how do you get it into more people's ears?
Right.
But to me, that's not even really, if I can put a podcast out and only 10 people listen to it, say.
Right. That's 10 people that you were able to.
Yeah. And then if of those 10 people, you get to see like 3 or 4 of them reach out and be like, oh man, that really affected me. That now that's a 40% effect rate, like a deep affection, where they are reaching out to you and letting you know that. And then you scale that up. Okay, well, just theoretically, what if that got in front of 1,000 people? Okay, well, that would have been 400 people where you really deeply touched, 10,000, 100,000. And like, that's the way I look at it. That's what's important to me, is to just make sure I'm doing the actual, what is important about a podcast. That's all I care about. And I know I need to start caring about all this. As come in here, I'm a little bit jealous, right? I look at this, I was like, you got it figured out. You know what I mean?
This has definitely been a labor of love. Like,
you can tell.
It's been one of those things too, where, and I'm sure you feel the same way with certain things, where it's like, you almost just have to try certain shit and be like, yeah, that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, I tried this, I tried that, or I've tried like wireless mics, I've tried different setups, or like, you have people on and like
no hat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just sweating my nuts off.
Yeah, same. I was trying to like keep talking and just like nothing was happening, just a little wipe here and there.
What is like your because I try to do, and it's something that I've been doing more of like actively like storyboarding or like preparation. So how do you choose, like, when you're doing a podcast by yourself or when you're doing an episode with a guest, what does like that preparation look like? And how do you choose, like, say if it's a solo episode?
Honest answer, especially on the solo podcast, I will usually kind of have a time. I'll grab a notebook, I'll write out like some things that have happened, certain comedy shows. If I went on a trip, kind of just try and jot down some memories. And then what I do before every big one is I sit down and I meditate. 20 minutes, just try and clear the mind and just like see what comes up, see what's in my heart on that day, because that's what's most important to me. I don't really care what the big topics are, maybe like what people want to hear. Like they can go anywhere to get that. What I want to look inside is, what do I want to talk about? What's important to me? What am I feeling on that day? That's what guides me. Obviously, it's a little different if there's a guest, but on the solo episode, that's what's important to me. And just to answer the other side of it, when it's a guest, the prep looks a little bit different. Over a couple of days, I'll come up and I try and have kind of a page worth of questions, things that I would like to ask them. I kind of honestly do it like I do stand up, or like, I guess I'd have to explain that too, but almost just putting myself in a like a role play of like I'm pretending I'm sitting down with them, having a conversation, playing both sides in my head, and just things that like naturally occur of like, oh, I've never thought of that. Why do you do this? Or does this mean something to you? And that will then populate this group of questions. Same thing before the episode. I'll sit down, I'll meditate and see if there's anything else that comes up. That's usually my best questions come maybe 20, 30 minutes before the episode or before the guest arrives. I sit down, just empty my mind and just see what comes to me. And then I have all those questions and then I try not to use them. I just have them sit there and I just try and have a conversation, see where it goes, just be completely one-to-one locked in with the guest and just see where it goes. Sometimes perfectly lines you up where a question you really wanted to ask finds the perfect place within the conversation for it to be asked, right? And you can work it in there. But then if you find a point where it reaches a hitch or you kind of reach that weird point in a conversation, sometimes like, oh, who's going to go next? I can look down. I have this entire list of questions. I can pick and choose and I'm never losing a step because I have those there. But I don't like, personally, I mean, everyone does it differently, but for me, I don't like being constricted by having those questions. Those are all like great questions that may or may not get asked throughout the episode. Sometimes you lean on them more than not. Sometimes you go into a podcast thinking you were going to talk about one thing, all these, and then you stumble your way into this completely different conversation you didn't know you're going to have, and it's beautiful. And that's my favorite thing.
And it's interesting you say that because a lot of times, like, I almost like overload the guests with questions sometimes where you need to almost like guide them in a way of like, okay, we're going to start talking about this, right? And then other people, they're just so good at talking that you're like, oh, I didn't even need this.
100%.
Right? And it's really, really interesting. Now, do you find you have like more of a temperament to like be patient?
That's a great question. I don't know. I feel like who I am as a person, I'm very much, if I don't have a reason, if it's a situation or like a room I don't want to be in, I don't have a lot of patience for that, right? Like if there's a reason to be there, if it's for a friend or for something I need to do, I'm very good at, if I have to be there, I will make the best of it and I will,
yeah,
and
like
maybe podcasting.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Like, say you're out with your friends and they start talking about like a political subject. Instead of just being like, yo, this is a stupid you're just like, I wonder what they have to say.
Yeah.
Like, because for me, it informs like how I'm going to talk about things. And maybe like they might bring up something that I never thought of. And I'm like, huh, that's really interesting. Because I always come at people in this. And now you say this. And now I kind of have to look myself in a mirror and say like, oh, am I a little bit like arrogant to this subject? Am I a little bit more? And I feel like talking to like a slew of different people, it allows me to be more like appreciative and like appreciative of the conversation and saying, maybe I don't know everything I think I know.
For sure. And there is that side. I kind of see it as like a two-sided coin. There is definitely the side that you just put forward. I think that is something that I almost learned that earlier than when I started. I feel like starting to listen to podcasts and listen to all these conversations I never heard and these voices I never heard really kind of beat that lesson into me of like, oh, you don't know everything. You have to be open to these. You can always take something from them. Then I think on the other side of it too, it kind of spoils you because you get to listen to all these really high level intellectuals have these really interesting debates on all these subjects. And you get like almost a taste for what conversation can be, how high level it can be. That sometimes I find myself frustrated. It's like, oh, this is such a dumb conversation. Like we're just so on the surface. Like everyone's just fighting. It's like I almost just like tune out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I should be more like what you just described, but sometimes it's like I know if I don't need to have this conversation with you if it's not going to be productive, because I'm so lucky to have so many amazing people in my life where it's like they might have the same viewpoint as you, but you can get somewhere with it because like the intelligence behind the viewpoint is so much stronger and so much more willing to go there, right? Like I feel like I'm trying to think of a good example for it. Um, yeah, I feel like during COVID there was a lot of things that were tough conversations to have, right? And if two people were genuinely willing to have them, they'd be a fascinating conversation where you could really go all over that. But then it was so emotionally charged that you didn't get there a lot. But my sister she's a super intelligent person, like one of the smartest people I know, but she's also super kind and super caring. And we would have these conversations where it's like, oh, most of the time, if ever the subject came up, I was like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, this is just going to be frustrating. Mm-hmm. But I knew if I had that same conversation around the same topics with her, it would be so intellectual. It would be willing on both sides to say, well, why do you think that? Or what
and not be like, you're an idiot.
Exactly. And
right?
It's like, oh, I'll say. So sometimes I find myself being in situations where it's like, it's not that I don't want to talk about this. It's just, this isn't the conversation to have. Like, this is not a highly, it's not in good faith. It's not.
Yeah.
In a space of like where I've gotten spoiled to with conversations like you can do sitting down on a podcast where you have all the time in the world to expand, go why, and sit down on that. Whereas when you're, seeing someone at a train stop and you're going to be, leaving them, you only have 15 minutes, you got to win before you separate, right?
Right.
That's not that high quality conversation that I crave. But I do find that since I've started doing this, I can kind of go into podcast mode. If someone interests me, I'm just sitting at a comedy show and they didn't know what they were signing up for, but now I'm asking these super deep questions. We've been sitting there for half an hour. I'm like interrogating someone once I find it's usually if they bring up something I didn't know they were passionate about and they show like a real light in their eyes. Like just happened on Tuesday. Saw a kid who had just started comedy, very talented and stuff, but didn't know much about him. And he started talking about comic books and I saw his eyes light up and he was so passionate about it.
And you're like, that's his thing.
Yeah. And I like comic books. I like Marvel. I like the movies. I'm probably more nerdy than people would guess upon seeing me, but not nearly his level. But he was so passionate for it. I was like, oh, I could talk to you for hours, right? And people kept coming in to, oh, I like comic books. I'm like, stop. We're having a deep conversation. They're like, no, you're talking about comic books.
Right.
But for me, I'm just so addicted to that deep, passionate conversation. If I can find that anywhere, I jump into it. And I think doing podcasts has only exacerbated that, where I'm just always kind of searching for it.
Yeah. Like, to build on that, it's interesting because I'm sure like your bullshit meter also of going like, yeah, this guy's full of shit. Like, because there's some people that I've talked to where you could ask less than 2 questions and you already kind of know like, yeah, this guy's not like, and then sometimes you have to ask people like, are you like this everywhere you go? Or like, is this like a thing? Like, is this like a character you're behind? And like it's really interesting because like I had to struggle that with myself of saying like, should there be like a podcast persona? Should like when I'm hanging out with my friends, should there be archetypes that make the conversation worth listening to? So like not everybody can be in agreement. And even if you are in agreement, like I brought this up because the other podcast, we have 4 different guys. And we said, we all can't agree on the same topics. So like one guy has to be a moderator. One guy has to be like the storyteller. Other guy has to be devil's advocate. The other guy has to be like the quips guy. Like, because nobody wants to listen.
Yeah.
But then you worry, like, am I losing this time I'm spending with my friends trying to like play into this narrative? And like, have you you're on you just released episode 245. Like,
and there's been way more than that because I've done little sub episodes.
307, I think you have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Did you do a little research?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where do you find like you have any like struggles with like identity or how you like identify yourself, or like, are you always like, oh, I want to talk about this topic, but I want to make sure like I I don't say anything too crass, or like I handle this with grace. How has that experience been for you?
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. I think setting out with the goal in mind of staying so locked in on who I am and trying to bring that through and get better at this space and this job of like having these conversations without changing who I am or trying to fill different roles. Like I never am trying to be the moderator or the quips guy. I'm just trying to be myself and have those conversations. I think that has allowed for the identity piece to not be as big of a question. I feel like I never feel as myself as I do when I'm locked in with someone having a good podcast. I feel like that pulls out the truest version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because it was an active thing I was trying to do. That's all I was trying to do in those first 100 episodes, is just really be myself and be accountable to not be trying to be cool or trying to be this or that. And obviously you're never going to be 100% perfect in that. You're going to slip into things, but I found I don't really struggle with it as much. I would say less so than trying to manage topics and talk about them in the right way. I think I decided at the start, if you're going to do a podcast, you're going to have to talk about some shit that's probably going to piss some people off. What I like to do, and it is tough, don't get me wrong, this is probably the toughest part. It's like, you have to have faith in yourself that you're a good person, you have good intentions, and you're not trying to hurt anybody or make anybody upset. You're just trying to say what you believe and have trust in that. And more so, it's not topics that I find hard to navigate, touchy topics. It's managing personal life and the people that it affects. Because the way I do a podcast, I talk about everything that's going on in my life. And I've learned along the way that you can completely unintentionally really hurt people's feelings because they feel like, oh, you have this platform. It's not like my podcast is doing a
But you like
views.
pull people into like the realm where they don't necessarily ask for, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you talked about me on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and that kind of like pissed me off a bit.
Yeah.
Or like you talked about a certain experience we had,
Mm-hmm.
and like I didn't really want people to know
Yep.
that we did that.
Exactly. And that's like, it's tough to find that balance. I think more than anything, that is what is tough on like the identity. Like when I first started the podcast, I was being very open about most things, but I was still doing that job. And within that job, there was crazy shit going on almost constantly, like stuff that I was fascinated by and would love to talk about, but I couldn't talk about because that's not how business works. You can't just,
Yeah, you'll just get fired.
yeah, and you have like
It's the
competitors
same with
and
me.
stuff.
It's like,
You would be letting go of like business secrets and like you'd be hurting your business by talking about it. You have to keep things close to the vest. But it was so difficult for me because that was such a big part of my life at that time. It's all I wanted to talk about oftentimes, like for good and bad. Sometimes it was just like, oh, we're working on such cool stuff. We have such, amazing projects going that I'm really proud of the work we put in, but you can't talk about them. And then since I've left that and gone into comedy, that's a really tough realm to do because comics are all infinitely sensitive, infinitely catty.
and do you find it's like an oversaturated market of like, how do I make this, like there's so many comedians doing a podcast. It's like, well, how do I make this like more unique than the next person, or how, but again, it's like you say, you're trying to stay to your authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
that's
don't really
like
think about it at all.
no, because it's like a lot of people, it's like a crutch. It's like, I'm just using this to prop up this.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's for you, it's reverse. Like, because a lot of people, it's like, I'm just using this to build my comedy career. Right. Yeah. And going back to the topics, I just want to quickly ask, did you have anything, or do you have anything now that is like strictly off limits that you won't talk about?
Yeah.
Because they could just say whatever they want and I'd be like,
yeah, for sure.
Because I don't have a fucking clue. Right. So was there anything where you were like, yeah, I don't talk politics, or I don't talk about, because some things I have no problem talking about if I have the baseline knowledge that I can carry it. And then I look like I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I just don't care if I look like an idiot. So I'm not really scared to go into any topic. The only things I try to stick away from is just personal things, or talking about stories that involve people that are actually in my life and I care about. The only thing that I stay away from is unintentionally hurting someone that I care about. That's all. That's the only thing that really matters to me. Talking about really, if people get offended over topics, I'm not really that concerned, right? Again, it goes back to that thing of just being confident in yourself that you are a good person, trying your best, you have good intentions in your heart, you're not trying to hurt anybody, you're not trying to piss anybody off. You might just be an idiot, but just being okay to say, yeah, I'm a bit of an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about on that. So I don't really find that there's any specific topics. I love talking religion. I love talking politics. I love talking those things. I just will be fully upfront about a lot of them and say, I'm out over my skis. I'm out of my depth. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I find the subject fascinating, and I more so end up like repeating, if it's someone, like say I sat down with someone on the religious topic that was way more versed, way more knowledgeable than me. I may not be able to contend one-to-one with them, but I do have my own thoughts and feelings that I think can try and add something to, or I can then get their take on it and see I can better flesh out my idea of what I believe, right? Like that helps me, right? I'm the idiot in that situation, right? I don't know what I'm talking about, but I can get something from that. And humbling yourself and just being like, hey, maybe I can learn something here. Oftentimes I find that's what brings people in. Like one of my favorite people, and this is a weird example to use because he's such a smart guy, but like Lex Friedman has on all these like Nobel Prize winning scientists in these fields that he is only, he's a hyper intelligent guy himself, but he will get into these subjects where compared to them, he's the idiot, right? But he's so willing to just say, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about, explain this to me. And then for somebody that is now so many rungs down the idiot's ladder like me, I can learn something from it. I might not be able to know like the inner workings of plasma physics, but I find it fascinating and entertaining. And even if I only take in about 1 or 2% of like the knowledge that is shared on that podcast for someone that has the prerequisite knowledge to take it all in, I still got to take this fascinating subject that I would never know anything about otherwise and take that in. That's how I approach it. And that's another one of those things I took from Lex Friedman. It doesn't matter how complex or touchy the subject is, as long as you're willing to say, I don't know, and learn in that situation, and then just be okay with, if that person across from you is not like even lying to you, but overestimates himself and they're wrong. Like that's not a personal thing on me. It's not like I went in trying to espouse on the podcast or about this subject, these ideas that may not be correct. I just went in trying to have a good conversation, and that was my intention, and just trusting in that. And then also just, I wouldn't really have someone on the podcast unless I really wanted to talk to them and I was interested in it. That's like a level of trust. If I'm going to have you on, I'm going to have that trust in you that you're going to think about your words in the end. If you're wrong and I have to eat some crow, eat some shit, I have to look a little silly for having you on. That's on me.
Yeah.
Right? And then also having that bullshit to detect in the moment, or that bullshit detector to realize in the moment, oh, maybe this isn't right. Like this doesn't sound right. Right. Just staying and be willing to say that. Right.
It's interesting, the skill of self-awareness that you need to have. When people look at it, it looks like it's like the saying of like, oh, if it was that easy, everybody would do it. And it's like, in like theory, it shouldn't be that difficult.
No.
But like the level of self-awareness you have to protect yourself, protect the guest, protect like the content and the brand and everything like that. It's very it's very interesting, because there has to be a level too where I'm sure you've had conversations where you were like, I think I might be in over my head.
Oh yeah.
Where you're like, okay, I have to like tread lightly on this. Like I remember I had a guy on and we were talking about like the war in Kashmir, and I had all these questions, and like as soon as he started talking, I was like, yeah, I'm not going there. Because I just knew, like I just knew right away, like I might ask something completely out of key that's not going to like make sense, or I'm going to compare it to something here and it's going to like totally like be almost like disrespectful in a way.
That's a hard skill.
Yeah. And like that has probably been the biggest skill that I learned throughout this, the level of self-awareness, when you can look back and be, even in my personal life, I have conversations where it's like, I would never, like I would have argue till the day I die, and having the experience of like being humbled, or like having these conversations where you can kind of sit with yourself and be like, yeah, like you don't always have to be right. Like you don't always have to be right. You don't always need to have the info. It's okay to say you don't know. Like, and that's a very tough thing, I think, that people
in today's society like have a hard time with, where it's like it's okay to like come in second. It's okay to come in eighth. Like as long as you can say personally, like, yo, like I got a benefit out of this. I'm happy for the people that came ahead of me. I'm wishing them all the best. There's no like ill will. But like as long as I took what I could out of it and moved along. But some people, it's like if they see themselves at eighth place, it's like there's no benefit in that. And it's really like it's just really twisted way of thinking, because it's just like this whole attitude of like you always have to come out on top, where it's like not necessarily. Like there's times where I leave a podcast and my girlfriend asks me like, how'd it go? I go, I probably didn't do the best.
Yeah.
Like I probably didn't ask the right questions, or like he was talking about this and I just like quickly like skimmed over it. And like looking back, I probably could have done a better job. And she's like, oh, like I'm sure you did good. Like I'm sure you did fine.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm sure I did fine.
Yeah.
But like there was definitely areas where like I could see some improvement.
Yeah.
And that's all right. You know what I mean? Like,
and what is, so when you go through that, because I've been there plenty of times where you come on a podcast, exactly what you feel. It's exactly what people tell you when you are open about it. They're like, oh, I don't think I did the best. Well, I'm sure it was good. What does that feel like to you in that moment? Do you get mad? Are you at peace with that? Does it ever piss
like,
you off?
The biggest thing is like stepping up for the guest. So like I always want to make sure that the guest is getting, like, one of the things that someone said to me, and it like actually like shook me to the core, where like a guy was leaving and he was like, well, I hope it made some good content for you. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And you're like, and it gave me the feeling of like, oh, like I didn't really ask anything that like moved the needle for you, or like I didn't really ask.
Yeah, they didn't say, hey, thank you for that conversation. Really enjoyed it.
It was just like they were there, and then they were like, well, I hope I like did it for you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, like it really like it gives me chills now thinking about it.
Missed the mark.
Yeah, and I just felt like, was I like selfishly asking questions that I thought the audience would want to hear, and then like I kind of like misread the situation, or like I didn't recognize when he was like uncomfortable, or when he wanted to say, and so I kind of took that and I said like, I need to have the notion of like, I'm here for the guest. I'm here to make sure that like the guest comes on for what they want to talk about, and like everything is cool with them. And I'm doing enough research that the questions that I'm asking, because like even when you talk about like having guests on that might be at like more of an intellectual high point, consideration that I have is like, well, the higher they get, the harder it's going to be to move the needle. Like I had guys on that have like PhDs in political science, and then you're like, well, or in your case, it's like, if I ask questions like, have you ever bombed before? It's like, well, fuck, of course I've like, it's so silly where you say like, I have to give the consideration or do enough background knowledge to ask questions that are actually going to like get the gears to turn.
That's what makes it all worth it.
You know what I mean? Like that's my feedback loop of like hearing the guest be like, yeah, this really like pushed the needle for me. And going back to your podcast, do you think that like implementing something as video like would fuck that up? Do you think that like by doing something like by converting your podcast to something that has like a video feed, do you find like that other thing added to it could take away from the quality of conversation? And what's held you back?
Possibly like laziness, A, B, hate technology.
Yeah.
I'm not good with it. This is like, to come in here and see this is so cool to me. I would love to have this, but just like seeing you have to like sit down and like switch camera, like that stresses me out. Right? Like I think I might not, if I'll give you two different scenarios. If you came in and you said, Nick, you're going to be interviewing a big guest you're excited for. I'm going to do all this. And I knew it was just being videoed and I could just still concentrate on what I do. I don't think it would change a thing. It might change a thing for the guest. It might be harder to settle them in if they know they're on video. I kind of forget. I don't know. It doesn't really, I haven't been really paying attention.
I always flip this around simply for the, like, I don't give a shit at all. Like, we're past like 100 episodes now between, and like with the conversational, it's like, I try to be as stupid as possible.
You're just being a silly goose.
Yeah, exactly. Like so but that's something that I actively had to like get away.
Overcome?
Yeah, because like sometimes I went too far, like I did some stupid shit and I was like, oh, this might actually like take away my credibility from like something else, or like, and it's always that measurement too of like, are you playing into it too much? Like, are you looking to like be that aggro? It's like, I'm only going to do it if my co-host, I'm going to think it's funny for them.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to do it to be like, I just want the attention. And early on, that was the thing of like, I was just kind of trying to steal the spotlight. And then I had to look
But
back.
you have the awareness to be able to say that at
Yeah.
the very least. And I think people don't realize how hard it is to stay locked in with someone one-on-one like this. Because I loved having conversations with people my whole life, and I loved watching podcasts until I actually started it. I didn't realize how easy it is to get lost in your head thinking about like what you're going to ask next, or they say something interesting, it sends you off. And now you clock back in, and for like a minute and a half, you haven't been there.
Oh, like
you're coming back in.
If this was 50 episodes, I'd be so bent out of shape from this guy fixing my washer.
Oh yeah,
it wouldn't even be like
you wouldn't be able to even think.
Yeah, and like, is the dog gonna freak out? Is like he gonna step on the fucking power strip and shut everything down? But now you kind of like, either way, I always tell the guests like, at the end of the day, even if this like goes up in smoke, like I was still able to meet like very cool people that are like influential to like my own personal life.
Yeah.
So I said at the very end of the day, like even if this person doesn't want the episode out, I still had like an engaging conversation that I can like take into my own real world, and like it translates.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I just put these out, man. Like I like, and it's just one of those things of like, I just see it as like notches in the belt. Like, I have people, hey, you're a fucking dude. Like, I had a chick that came on from the circus. Her name was Amazing Boobzilla. She did circus chicks with her breasts.
I'm familiar with Boobzilla.
Yeah. And so I had her on, and like, people messaged me with so much hatred.
Really?
Dude. Like, and it was almost to the point where
you can
I had
hate on Boobzilla.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I was thinking of like censoring the comments because they were so bad. And then, but
on what, like YouTube, Instagram, where were these
like
comments?
calling her sir, because she had the like, it was the full like bearded lady, like the whole shtick, right? And people were like, yo, that's disgusting. Like, okay, sir. But then I started to see that she was like clapping back at the comments. And I was like, hey, like it would almost be disrespectful to the guest to not allow her to like shoot back and tell these guys to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting, but like I got like probably like 5 or 6 DMs like, yeah, I'm not like subscribing to this. Like I had guests that like canceled and was like, if you're going to interview a chick like that, like I'm good. But you just kind of got to be like, if that's the type of person you are, man, like do your thing. But like what people come on for and what you come on for has like, there's no like connection. Like even when I had a guy that was an independent guy running for council, and then I had a guy that was part of this like new municipal party, and everybody thinks it's like bullshit. And it's like, I was worried that these guys were going to do the same thing. So I messaged them saying like, hey, I just want to let you know, like everybody deserves an opportunity to talk. And like, you might not agree with it, but I'm just letting you know I'm having this person on, and like, they are going to get the same structure that you got in the interview. And by no way am I endorsing any of you guys.
Yeah.
Like I put all of your guys' shit up here,
and
whether you're part of any political, because it's not that you're running for council. It's the fact that you were a guest and I'm promoting my guests.
Yeah.
So like, it's not that, and I don't even give a shit about politics. Like it's not even like none of my wheelhouse, but I was like, I should probably learn something about what's going on in the city. Like I knew nothing about infill. I had to like study infill for like 3 days because I was like, I don't even understand
what's infill.
It's like building in existing neighborhoods.
Oh.
So like people tearing down old houses and putting up like for what it used to be for is like duplex. But now what you're seeing is like people are tearing down like a super old house and then they're putting up like an eightplex. And then now all of like the trees and there is no backyard. And now instead of having one family there, you're having 8 families there, and there's no parking, and it congest the transit and shit like that. So like a lot of people favor it. A lot of people want them to build in like the Edmonton, like the comment exhibition lands or whatever it is. So it's like, again, you have to be like graceful with these guys and having those conversations beforehand and being like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, this isn't like a suck off.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like me like sucking your ass here. Like, I'm actually going to ask you like real questions. So like, don't like, this isn't like a layup thing because like, I'm not going to like fuck my credibility by just like kissing your ass.
You're not sucking his ass.
And you're not sucking his ass.
This isn't an ass sucking.
Yeah. And so you kind of have to tell them that. And then like, because one guy's like, well, sit down and go through like the script. And I was like, it's not a script.
Yeah.
I was like, and if you think it is, we should just probably cancel.
Well, that's weird that when a politician comes on, you say, hey, this isn't an ass sucking.
Yeah.
But when I come on, you said, hey, I'm going to suck your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah, I know. Well,
That's
you're a
weird.
comedian, man.
Okay, so
It's
only
just
comedians get our ass sucked?
Exactly, yeah.
Got it. That's the real reason I came
that's
here.
on the
I just wanted an ass sucker.
That's on the Patreon.
So at one point in there, you said, I don't give a shit about politics. What do you give a shit about? What are your passions? I mean, clearly podcasts that you've gone this far into it, but other than that, what are you into?
I play video games a lot.
Yeah? What kind?
Sports usually.
Yeah, you're a sports guy?
I like what I like to do is I like to either play low level, like low education functioning where it's like I'm on autopilot or like highly intense, like city skylines, like shit like that, where it's like you're navigating the flow of traffic and what roads you're putting in and what type of districts you're making. And in some ways where like
we play some different video games.
Yeah. And like some ways where you're like with NBA, I'll play and it's like, I'm kind of like just counting down the minutes of like, when's this like, and you're just like repping out games to like farm VC and shit. And then other games, you look at the clock and you're like, I didn't even know I spent 8 hours playing this game. I listen to almost like a chronic addictive amount of like YouTube. I watch like slop tubers talk about like,
what is that term again?
Flop tuber.
Yeah.
So it's like YouTubers that basically talk about like streaming drama. So like, you know who like Hussein Piker is? So he's like a political commentary guy on Twitch. And he kind of has all these like outlandish things about like the war in like Gaza and like all of this like, and so then a guy on YouTube documents how much he hates this guy.
Okay.
And it's literally just like noise in my ear.
Yeah.
And I'll be like playing NBA and this guy's like, what a buffoon. And you're just like, for some reason, it just like
tickles you.
It just, And I don't care. I barely even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But just the simple way of this guy's able to like articulate how much he hates this guy. And then I watch like a lot of people discuss like podcasts that didn't go well. So like this like Mark Maron drama, like where he's talking about like the Rogan sphere and how much like Joe Rogan ruined Austin comedy and shit like that. I don't even know where to stand. I think I love it all. It's just one of those things of like, how are people articulating this and how are they getting their point and what did they reference? And then I go see and I go, did they actually get this right?
Yeah.
And like, so it's not for buying into the drama. Cause like I exit the video and I go, all right, I'm just going to watch like whatever. And then I watch like NBA highlights or whatever it is or a podcast. But it's just like, I get my like fix on like seeing how people like structure their conversations and as well as like human behavior. I used to watch a lot of like people break down like human dynamics where like there's some comedy ones where like Joe Rogan interviewed Mike Tyson and Mike Tyson had his like hands over the table and they deep dived and they like cut a line on the table and they said like, these are like power lines. So like if I was like sitting like this, it might be more intimidating or like me being on the edge of my seat or like Theo Von interviewed Bill Burr and like he just kind of like talked. And then Bill Burr in the middle of the interview was like, yo, are you ever going to ask me about my special? And like Theo Von like actually like slid his notes across the table, almost being like, all right, well, you run this fucking interview.
Yeah.
So like seeing the dynamics of like, where like when can you tell people are uncomfortable like and it like educates me as a podcaster, because then I know where people are at when I'm interviewing them.
Or just this could be an uncomfortable person that
Or
needs more.
or they're burnt out and they're ready to go.
For sure.
So I just have to wrap it up.
Mhm.
And just to like be a better human being.
Yeah,
And
we're
like be
trying to
like,
pick up.
yeah.
Sorry, do you find you pick up on those like natural cues, or do you find you struggle to do that naturally? Is that where you're looking to?
No, like I
these
used to be a
breakdowns?
soccer coach for like 9 years.
Mhm.
And that was one of the big things, because we worked between like 6 years old and like 16 years
Yeah.
old. So once you got to a certain part, you weren't coaching like from like 6 to like 10.
Mhm.
You're just coaching attitude. You're not even
Yeah.
coaching the sport. So it's like you're trying to find out ways to like subtly see like where people are at.
Mhm.
And then like on the other side of it, you're like giving people like where one thing where it was like, when I was coaching, my coach always told me like, you never cross your arms, because like that's like a defensive position. And we talked about these like defensive positions where like you didn't look approachable.
Yeah.
So you had to always have these factors in your mind, or like using analogies, or like contextualizing it for like younger people, because the scheme, or like what you're trying to actually get them to understand, might be so foreign to them that you need to say, like, we always talked about like Jackie Chan saying like he flows like water. Like if I put water into a vase, it fills into the vase. If I put it into a tube, it fills into a tube.
Yeah.
And you like,
If you're not playing defense,
yeah.
I'm going to make you run left.
Not
You
only-
sound like an intense children's soccer coach.
Oh,
Sounds
for
like you're
like-
sending them to war.
Yeah. Oh,
Were they going to
dude.
Portugal to fight in a war?
No, for like semi-pro tryouts.
Oh, that's
and like,
sick.
and so, or like we were coaching
Did you
them.
play high level soccer? Or did you
So
play
I
more
played
in
university, but I got
Yeah.
into soccer like very later on in my life. So
Gotcha.
like
Did you play sports before that?
kind of like, I think there was a huge gap from like, I'd probably say like in my toddler era, I played like Timbit soccer
Yeah.
and shit like that.
Mhm.
And then once I got into like my adolescence, teenage, I had some like a lot of like family turmoil. So like I just never had the opportunity to like
Mhm.
be a kid in that age.
Yeah.
And then once I was able to grow out of that and like be an adult and like
Mhm.
manage my faculties properly,
Yeah.
I was able to then like get back into sports. But I think I had like my biggest challenge was like, I did a lot of like victim blaming and like ego shit, where like I wouldn't get like because during university I played for 2 years, and I probably played a total of like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And like I was fucking so bitter about it.
Yeah.
And it like that like followed me for a long time, where like I
Mhm.
had to like sit back. And then like getting into like coaching, still like I was like not getting picked for shit, and I'm like, why the fuck am I coaching if I'm not? And it was just this thing where like I didn't understand that like people were putting in a lot more work than me.
Mhm.
And I was just so arrogant of it, of like, look, I'm here, like what the fuck, like. And yeah, and then I think like getting into like corrections and working at jails and shit like that, and working with people that are like 30 years your senior,
Mhm.
and like ripping you a new asshole,
Yeah.
or dealing with like inmates that are like testing you all the time, where you need
Yeah.
to have that like emotional regulation and like understanding of like, this guy doesn't hate me because he hates me. Like this guy doesn't even know who the fuck I am.
Mhm.
He's just hating me because I tell him no.
Yeah.
Right. And this guy doesn't like me because the boss that put me in this area, he wanted to be in that area. So like
Yeah.
he had the same victim blame shit as me.
Mhm.
But like I didn't really like grow up till like 28 years old.
Mhm.
And I didn't like, these last 2-3 years has been like the most like probably worldly, like eye-opening
Mhm.
years of my life, where like the rest of my like life was like being a child.
Yeah.
And it's honestly crazy, because I look back at like previous relationships.
Mhm.
I look back and go like, man, I fucking hated that chick for like everything. But I then realize and say like, man, I was an emotional fucking terrorist.
Mhm.
Like, and I didn't even realize I was doing it,
Yeah.
you know? So it's,
Have you tried the big work yet? I mean, it sounds like you've found a lot of awareness. You found out things, you've been able to look back and see the things, and I feel like that's that huge step that every person, if you're going to be a fully utilized like actioned human being, you have to do that step. But then there's one past it and like try to go into why you're like that way. Have you ever done that work?
Yeah, where you have to like look yourself in the mirror and say,
like why was I doing that ego shit? Why was I doing the victim blame?
Yeah.
Like, where does that come from? Did you find the insight?
Yeah, I think a lot of that came from like I had a lot of crutches. So I had a lot of like I have like a super addictive personality, whether it's gambling or like I used to like and you could find any reason, man. Like I'd come home and be like, oh, like got through the day, I'll have a couple beers, and then a couple beers would turn into 8 beers, and then I'm like drunk and I'm fucking texting people wild shit, and you're just like. And then it only took me like getting in a relationship and just being held accountable for those things. Cause like it probably would have kept going, right?
Yeah.
Or like one day I got like hammered and spent like $400 gambling. And I was like sitting in the shower crying, being like, yo, what the fuck am I got? Like, where am I at?
Yeah. And
like,
who do you blame at that point?
And then you're like, I feel so stupid. And I'm like, I'm so lost, but I don't even know like how to get out of this like wallowing in my own shit. Like,
you get addicted to that wallowing too, because that's what you've always done.
Well, then
that's
you just fuck it up and say like, oh, that's just what I do. Like, I'm just a fucking idiot, right? And it's something that I learned really like. I used to be very like I don't want to say judgmental, but I used to have like very strong opinions on like how like your willpower, how like if you wanted to do it, you just do it. And then you realize there's like a lot of different factors, and then you realize like a lot of it comes down like it's not even like external factors. It's like a lot of it comes down to like how people perceive themselves and how people like view their own value or like their own motivation. And like some people just haven't been honest with themselves and said and said like, you know what? Like the reason I'm not getting what I want, like, is because I really just haven't like, and people don't understand the systems in place that they signed up for. So I'll give you an example. Like at work, I was trying to be a supervisor, and in that culture, like it's a lot of bag licking, right? Like it's a lot of like
a lot of ass sucking.
A lot of ass sucking, man.
Got it.
It's where it's like, you want me to shave? I'll shave. You want me to go tell my best friend that he got to go fucking work here? Done. You don't need to even ask me why. All you need to know is that the job's done. Shit like that, where it's like, I'll burn bridge, I'll wear blood on my hand. I don't give a fuck, man. I just want to be a supervisor.
Damn.
Right? And it's like and then everybody
some gangster shit.
And like everybody wants that, right? So then it becomes like everybody's just like climbing on top of each other.
Crabs
to like,
in a bucket.
Right? And so I like had this notion of like, well, I'm not willing to do that. Like these guys are my friends, like outside and inside of work, and like I'm just not that guy. Like I'm not gonna like quote unquote like sell my soul. But then like I'd show up to work a little disheveled and this and that, and I wasn't getting like the opportunities of some other people, and I was like, I'm being looked over and this isn't fair and blah 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 blah. And then like I ended up like just telling them like, don't even consider me. Like don't even consider me anymore, because like you're blatantly fucking me over. But then I had to look back after the fact and say like, well, yeah, some of that was true, but then half of it was like, I didn't buy into the concept that they wanted me to buy. If I wanted it that bad, I probably should have kissed some ass.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so.
Or found your own way to balance that thing where you're not just kissing ass. You can stay loyal to your, like what feels good to you, but also like bring it in other ways where you can find a way to be impressive in a way that doesn't, like go against your morals.
And where are those scales, right? And I just had to look at it and say, well, the work I'm putting in with all of these work initiatives and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's like they're looking for a certain person, and the person that they're looking for does X, Y, and Z. I did X and Z. Yeah. So
gotta get that why.
Exactly.
The why is the most important.
So a lot of things like that where I had to look around and like kind of look at like, what do I actually want to do? Right. And like when you talk about the why, it's simply that of like, where am I actually getting my fulfillment? Realize like what am I actually trying to like accomplish here? Yeah. And not only that, like sometimes I have to look at myself and go, am I complaining just to complain? Like, is this just like a natural function of human beings where I'm just bitching to bitch?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of radical accountability?
Yeah, like you mean like Jocko Willink and like
I don't even know where I got it from or actually what like the definition of it is. I feel like I must have learned it many, many years ago through a podcast and then just started applying it from my understanding of what it was in my life because I'm very much, maybe not exactly similar to you, but I have a lot of those tendencies too, or I used to, not as much anymore where I'd blame other people. I would have, a little bit of pity party, but what it is, and I find specifically in comedy, it works amazing. And I try to tell a lot of people when they're starting comedy about this, um, because it's like just taking on no matter what happens, what roll of the dice you got, circumstances, a boss being a piece of shit of like, don't give any credence or credit to any of those things outside of your control and take it all onto yourself and go, what could I have done? Right? Because there's always going to be things that you can look at and it never serves you. Right? When someone goes up and maybe it's kind of a fucked up comedy show and the crowd is weird, some things went on at the start, there's odd interactions, the vibe in the room is kind of off, and you go up and you have a terrible set, you bomb your dick off. When you get off stage, you could take no lessons from that and just go, oh yeah, that was fucked. The vibe was fucked. The crowd sucked and move on with your life. Or you can go, hey, I know all those things happened, but what could I have done? Could I have diagnosed why that vibe was weird? What happened at the start of the show? Could I have addressed that? Could I have done this? And when you put yourself into that mindset, you are now able to fully extract all the lessons from all the situations because all you're doing when you find external validation for why something didn't go your way, even if it's true, you've now abdicated yourself of responsibility and now you've taken none of the lessons from it. If you switch that around, it kind of sucks sometimes because, yeah, it'd be nice just to be like, oh, yeah, that crowd was fucked, But if you do that, you're going to learn more and you're going to get better. And I find just like listen to you talk, I was like, oh, I bet you if you practice that radical accountability, it would help you naturally bring yourself to that space you're trying to work towards where you're putting more on yourself and like finding that awareness in the moment instead of having to sit back, look on it from a point in the future when you've made that growth to then see it. You can start seeing it in the moment and catching yourself. It just speeds up the timeline of that growth, I find.
And it gets easier too to like not even pivot, but like branch into comedy. Like where did you see that spark?
That was something that I've wanted to do my whole life. I've always loved stand-up comedy since I was a kid. I've told people this story many times. I remember like being maybe like grade 4 or 5 and sitting on the bus driving to school and just fantasizing about doing stand-up as like a grade 4 or 5 kid. And I didn't have material. I would just be like,
riff it.
Yeah, like riffing in my head, like imagining situations of like crowd work where they would say something and I would just think of a joke off my head and like get this laugh. I always wanted to do it. But then I always had excuses. When I graduated university, I got right into a job that was very intensive, and that was an easy excuse, right? Oh, I can't be doing comedy. I'm running a
I
company.
don't have the time.
I don't have the time. Yeah. So then when I started podcasting, I think I knew that was gonna bring me closer to that goal of wanting to try stand up, but still had excuses. And I don't know how long. I think something would have shook me to do it if I had just gone on naturally, but actually, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but I think the guest you're having on tomorrow is someone who I had on my podcast, and we talked about comedy for the whole time, and he could tell I really wanted to do it, and I was making excuses. We chatted a little bit after, and then he left, and he said, or he called me about 20 minutes later, and he just said, you're booked on Tuesday. I know you want to do this, right? 5 minutes. And then I never looked back. I've been on stage or at a show almost every night since then. That was over 3 years ago. So it was something I always wanted to do, something that was deep within me. It was something that I really loved. But that first step was so hard to take that it needed a push, right? And I was so lucky that he did that, and I'm always very appreciative of him for it. Yeah.
Do you find even in like the comedy scene as a whole, it's one of those notions of people have it in their mind, oh, I want to do it, but where do I start? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think there's probably tons of people. I think you see stand up and everyone goes, oh, I think I could do that.
Because it's like, oh, it's an open mic, or drop your name here.
Yeah.
You know, or like, I don't want to ask. I don't want to, like, because you feel like you're going into the lion's den or something. Because that, like, I feel like I share that same notion where I'm like, man, I think if I really put the work in, I could do it. I just need to get out of my own way.
Yeah.
And what does that look like?
I think what it more was is just someone to give you that first step to try it. Because like once you're doing it, it's a whole different thing. Like comedy is terrifying until you get on the stage, and then either it's super fun or it's super shitty. But like the fear is in the buildup, right? And it's about getting that push, right? Once you step on that stage, there's no one with you. No one's holding your hand, right? Nobody can go on stage. Someone can give you that first push to take the leap and get up on that stage the first time. But once you're up there, it's all on you. I think having someone to help answer questions and that, and I think Edmonton is a very great place for that. There's a lot of people within comedy, because comedy is not incentivized to want to help. It's incentivized to want to take everything for yourself. You don't really want new people to start and get good. You don't want the people around you
stage time.
They're going to take your stage time. So the whole industry is built upon just looking out for yourself and not helping anybody. But I think within Edmonton, there's certain people that really go out of their way to help. And that is a huge thing that allows for so many awesome new comics to start. Just in the time that I've been doing comedy, 3 years, we've had so many great comics that, you know, really, if they keep going, they keep putting the effort in, are gonna like have a chance, a real shot at doing something cool with it. So I think going into it, the only thing that you need to do is just get up on that stage for the first time. You'll find out right away what you think of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about reps at the start.
What was your early joke structure look like? Like when you were trying to create jokes or create material, were there certain like events, or were you like, I'm gonna talk about this, or I'm gonna talk about that? And how did you like navigate the difference in like making a topic digestible in a podcast form and then adding a punchline?
Yeah, I think I went into it a little bit naive, because you talk about such big things on the podcast. Naturally, that's what I wanted to do with stand-up. But like the thing you have to, and I didn't understand this, it took me a while to understand this, and kind of to fall on my face a little bit, was to talk about big subjects or to make a point is like a very, very skilled thing, right? Like you probably shouldn't be trying to really even talk about anything. Like
a George Carlin.
Yeah.
Like, because he talks about like death. And
you can do that. You can do that when you got 10 years under your belt, 15 years, 20 years under your belt. If you've been doing comedy, let's say your first time, or your first 100 sets, 300 sets, 500 sets, right? Like it takes a long time to get good at it.
Jokes.
Start basic, start easy, right? Just learn. Almost the first 100 sets is just getting over the fear and the weirdness of being up on stage in front of people. Like you're now trying to conquer that. Be funny, be locked in with what you're doing, right? It's like a podcast. You have to be locked in with them and like reading what's going on. You're fighting the fear, you're shitting your pants, and now you're trying to make a point. How are you going to be funny?
Yeah.
Right? Like that'd be my biggest recommendation to people, is just simplify. You know, don't set your sights too high. Go up, even if they're, you know, you won't ever get more than 5 minutes for your first spot. Might be less, but you don't have to do the whole thing. Go up there and challenge yourself to do 2 minutes. Have one joke or two jokes, go up there, try it, get through the fear of taking that step, signing up, not backing out and leaving the venue. Just stay there. Make sure you set up, you go up and do it. If it goes good or bad, it doesn't matter, because it's gonna, even if it goes good on the first one, it's a matter of time. You're gonna have a really bad set. And even if you do stick with it, get a certain skill set where you're good at it, eventually you're gonna fuck it up. It's so easy to make a misstep, kill your likability off the top, where now no matter how good at jokes or funny things off the top, you soiled
something, and now like your next 3 minutes is just
they're gonna hate you. Yeah, and almost in trying to figure it out and fix it, they can make them hate you more. And you just have to understand that's gonna come, and you have to be okay with that. You're never gonna be able to crush every time. You have to go through a slog of figuring out the skills that you are. You know, you'll never be bulletproof, but you can get so good at it that it's really hard for it to go that sideways. But
what was the training that you had to do specifically, given the fact that you do long form podcasts, and then now you're basically limited to 5 minutes? Was that was that one of those factors that was really intimidating, where you're like, how, like, I'm used to be able to get my point across over 2 hours.
Yeah.
What the fuck? How am I going to condense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think it could have been, but I kind of adjusted very quickly to realize, like, oh, it's not the time constriction that is not allowing me to tackle these subjects. It's a different thing. Podcasts are made to talk about things and go on tangents. Comedy's not about that. It's made to be funny, right? Where it's like, I recognize very quick, oh, I'm going to have to do this for years and years and years until I have the skill set to be able to take a big meaty subject like AI. Like, in my first set, I was trying to talk about AI and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I had all these jokes written on, it was like super poignant stuff about,
people are like, what is AI? And you're like, I don't have time.
yeah, it's just, but it's like, even if I had all the time in the world, I would have bombed a horrific day. If they give you, oh yeah, you got 45 minutes, go talk about AI. You just don't have the skills. Like, that's what I tell comics that are trying to make big points when they start. It's like, you haven't earned that yet.
Yeah.
You need to get a skill set to the point where you're passably good at it, and then you can start to make a little point here and there if you're lucky. But you've got to be killing so hard. You have to have so much likability for people to even give you the time of day to try and like make them feel something other than just like cheap laughs. It's a thing you earn. So I don't know if that time constriction is as much, but I also, worked my way. Like, I started comedy. I put my time in for about 6 months of just going out to all the shows, signing up, and then it was like, okay, now it's time.
What were some early venues, if they're even still around?
Oh, they're still around, yeah. My first ever set was at the Comic Strip in West Edmonton Mall. One of the greatest clubs in Canada. We're super lucky to have it. Love that place. I now run shows there, which is awesome. Comic Strips where I did my first one. There's a bunch around White. The Grindstone Theater still around. We have Yuk Yuks in one of the casinos in town. The venue that I work the most in and I put most of my time in is called The Moon.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about that.
You've heard about it?
Yeah, I Googled it, but they don't have an address on Google.
Nothing on Google, yeah.
No.
No, it's more of an if you know kind of place.
Yeah.
It's like a artist collective kind of thing where we do crazy comedy shows till the early hours in the morning, and you can smoke weed inside. It's like this warehouse. Shit. Yeah, you can like rent bongs and shit. Has this crazy snack selection because they don't sell any drinks or nothing or weed. Like, you can just bring your own weed, and then they sell like all these kind of imported snacks from Europe and stuff, and all chips and every kind of drink in the cooler that isn't alcoholic. They got pretty much everything, and that was the place where I really found my place. Right, yeah. Like I loved the comic strip from the first time I went there because the staff are so amazing. I really love the people there. But it's in a club that's been around for decades. It has a certain, it's an upper echelon club.
They have
where
like
I
a
was
reputation to hold.
Yeah, and like I was nowhere near good enough to be able to be involved on a deep level there. I was just some open micer that really liked them and was good, became friends with them, but I wasn't bringing anything to the table. And I had to earn my stripes, get good enough at comedy where I could, do a weekend there as a host or as like a co-middle and not be fucking it up and tearing it down where they're giving me a shot where I'm actually adding something to it. But when I found The Moon, it was just like a glove in hand fit. I was full of passion, loved comedy. So did they. They were just willing to let full creative control of what is going to put on a good comedy show go to the comics. And they wanted to learn with that of like, okay, how can we put on better shows for you guys?
Like a production wise. Yeah,
production wise. And it's all, there's no employees, it's all volunteer, but there's so much passion behind it. The people there are just spectacular. So what I realized was you can only get so much experience doing 5-minute spots a couple times a week when you can get lucky enough to get your name pulled out of a hat. I need to make my own stage time. So I went to a place, my first ever show was at Sherlock's on the U of A campus. Thought I was going to run the best show in the city. Realized running shows is really hard. I had to make so many mistakes.
Like being an MC.
Yeah, but also like a showrunner of like you're booking the comics, you're
Oh,
making sure the sound system's working, you're making sure that there's an audience there. If you're doing a bar show, you also have to go around. There's going to be people in a bar didn't even know there's a show, and you have to be like, hey, would you come sit over here? Do you want to be a part of the show? If not, can I get you to go sit on the other side?
yeah.
You have to work with the venue to get money to pay the comics, right? To be able to promise them that you're going to put something on and they're going to
Right.
make money with it. You have to handle the dynamics of comics. Comics are some of the best people in the world and some of the worst.
Like in terms of like complimenting each other.
Yeah, and
Like-
also just being like butthurt about if they get booked or not, or how much they get booked, or everyone.
So what did your first year look like in terms of like progression into this role? Like if you could put like a finite number on it, like in your first year, how many like 5-minute sets before like you felt comfortable enough to do like 10 minutes or whatever it looks like? Like what's that
Yeah.
pipeline look like for a new comedian going into it?
I think it's different for everybody. I think mine would probably be slightly ahead of pace. Like it's
Like
not
you
like it was
kind of
that
like fast
crazy.
tracked yourself?
Yeah, but not crazy. Like it was still mostly in that first year. It's mostly 5-minute sets. You get some opportunities to do 10. That was cool. In my first year, did some like dumb things looking back, but that's common of what comedy is you gotta get way out over your skis and just try something. Like I got booked. Someone saw me, I think, at the comic strip, liked my comedy and was like, hey, we have this like corporate event out in it's somewhere like in between Edmonton and Slave Lake where I grew up, this like tiny little hamlet. And Flatbush,
Okay.
Alberta. So we're going to like the Flatbush Agriplex. And they're like, it's an hour show. We're gonna pay you X amount of dollars. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah. So me and my buddy Art, who also like he only started comedy maybe, I don't know, a few months, 6 months before I did. So we're both very new. And we're like, we can go do this. We'll both go do 30 minutes. Terrible decision. And it was
Like 6 times your normal threshold.
yeah, and like
And I'm sure you have like content, but it's like, how do you string that all together?
exactly. And you might have 30 minutes if it's like a good show, but like now you're going to this agriplex where it's not set up for comedy. There's like a 20-30 foot gap between this giant like stage and the first people. And like you want everyone sucked up to the front. Like there's so many things I know now because I've done so much show running that I understand what goes into like comedy. You want people packed in tight, close to the stage, as close to the comic as you can. You want low ceilings. You want darkness.
So it's intimate.
It's intimate. You don't want people to be able to see each other and like look at what they're laughing at. You wanted people kind of have that secrecy of like nobody knows what. Like so, if it's kind of an offensive joke, they're not like hiding themselves.
And they're not looking around and seeing like, oh, is this
Yeah.
person offended?
Yeah, because
like
that infects the room. If somebody tightens up, it infects the room, and then people go, "Oh, well, I thought that was funny," but people are not. So it's psychology. You want low roofs so the laughs like reverberate around. So this was the exact opposite. There was a giant moat of space, probably 30, 40 feet between the stage and the first groups of people. It was gymnasium ceilings,
Yeah.
huge ceilings, super bright, right? Like it was the worst setup you could have, right? So that, but you take those opportunities and you do the best you can. And like they were happy with it. It was just like, oh, that was a nightmare gig for us to like slog through and try
Right.
to get what we could out of it. But we both did a pretty great job considering like there was no right.
experience.
Yeah, and there was no right. It should have been that good for how green we were. Like looking back, that was a crazy thing we did, but we actually pulled it off to a degree where it's like, oh, it's not like they were unhappy with the what they got. They were super happy. They appreciated that we came out. It was positive. And then, but then you reach that point where that only comes so few and far between where you get those opportunities where you got to start creating them. So I started that show at Sherlock's, ran that for a few months, and then I started the show at the Moon. And that's when I started really getting stage time because what they allowed us to do was, whatever we wanted. So I was able to be, it's tough because I want to say it allowed me to be selfish with it, but I went in, it was almost as selfish as it can be and as selfless as it could be because what I wanted to do was have 3 shows, right? Like a booked paid show where you have all the best comics that you can get, you pay them money, and you put on a great show. That'll be from like 8 to 10. And then do like this weird open mic where people can get a ton of stage time and like weird stage time where you can be more you can mess around a lot more. You'll have a room full of comics you can fuck around with. We're going to put comics on the stage with mics, and like kind of like a heckle show, but not like with a mean spirit. And that gives comics time to stretch their legs in a different way, because it'll be a different show than any around the city. And then after that show, once every comic that wants to do a set has done one, we can just bring out a ton of microphones. Everyone pulls up at the front. It's usually about 12:30, and we'll just fuck around, riff till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And what that allowed for me was I got to get so much stage time hosting and being part of it from about 8 p.m. till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I was on stage and I was as a part of it, where that's when things really started to ramp up, because now I'm getting the type of stage time that maybe someone that was a year into comedy would get. The amount of stage time I could get in one Friday, they would get over like 3 months.
Right.
So that really, and for a time at the start, I was running that Sherlock show on Monday. So it would be a 90-minute show that I'm hosting. And then this like 5 to 8 hour behemoth on Friday, every Friday. So you put those together and I was getting like a ton of experience. That's when I started to think I got a little bit out front of the curve of like the amount of time I was getting compared to how early I was. And then I just kept going from there. Got a show at the comic strip, started doing that. And now I have a huge venture that's coming up. We're partnering up the Moon and the comic strip, and we're putting on a show October 6th with, we're trying to take everything we've learned at the Moon running these shows where it's completely comic first, right? What is going to be the best experience for the comics on the stage in terms of lighting, ambiance, psychology of the room, everything we've learned, but then applying it at one of the most historical, best clubs in the city, and trying to let both places benefit, because the Moon has a ton of people that love the niche, nerdy comedy we put on that would love to come to the comic strip, right? Bring their friends that maybe don't smoke weed or want to be in a warehouse full of weed.
Right.
They can come there. The comic strip gets, 2 people that are passionate about show running and putting on these great shows that get to come in essentially for free and just put on a great show for them, and they can benefit from it. And to me, I love both venues so much, and I want them both to succeed so hard. Now I can just be so efficient with my time and sell both, and bring all the people that love comedy in the city can come support comedy in such a efficient way, because you're just supporting the 2 best clubs. You're supporting all the best people in comedy. We're going to book the best comics. Like if you could only ever go out and see like one show,
this would be it.
This would be it, right? And designing it that like we're going to pull out all the stops to make it the best experience possible and let everyone benefit from that. We're going to try and pack it out. So, but that is something that we grew up to, right? If we would have tried to do this 2 years ago, we would have fallen on our faces. I know that, right? And along the way, you have these big ideas, and until you go try and do them, you don't realize how much you don't know. And you have to go.
And then you got to learn.
You got to learn, and you have to learn quick.
So what do the metrics look like if someone was trying to convert from Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, like where are the metrics of actual like legitimate success? Like how do people make comedy a full-time gig? Like is there like for 1 8-hour shift, how many open mics would you have to do to get the same amount of pay? And is that like how I would almost assume that the amount of like front load that you would have to put in to get that in the end, like when you talk about like your 3 years, like what kind of sacrifices, whether that be monetary, whether that be sleep, like
everything, sacrifice everything. It fucks your relationships. It fucks your financials. It fucks your mental health. I tell people, if you want to try stand-up, try stand-up. It's a cool thing to say you've done once. If you want to do stand-up, be ready to give up everything, because it will fuck your shit up. It is. And I thought that myself, I was a pretty actualized guy. I thought I was going to be able to skate by those things and like, oh, I see it fucks other people up, but those people are weak-minded. I'm going to be better than that. Nope.
No, you got ass sucked.
Yeah, I got my ass sucked, and not in the good way.
Yeah,
not in the good way. Yeah. And what I would say to you, like to take how much open mics do you have to do to make up? There's no amount of open mics. Like you have to essentially be broke for 5 to 10 years before you even start to make any meaningful money. Like it is borderline impossible. You are betting on a dream, and everything around you, everybody around you is telling you, you should quit. You're not good enough. And you have to push through. And that can be people you love. That can be your family. That could be like your wife or your girlfriend telling you, hey, this isn't working. You can't do this. And you have to fight through all of that just to have a small sliver of a shot of being profitable, and then even tinier sliver of actually being like a big time success with it.
Do you
It's
think
one of the
like
hardest things in the world?
do you think that's why you see like a lot of comics that are single?
For sure.
Because it's just like you literally can't divert your attention.
Yeah. It's like trying to date while doing stand up and trying to have like this person that you care about, but like you're never going to care about them more than you care about comedy. And they're like, oh, well, it's this open mic at a bar on a Monday. Why
Yeah.
can't you just skip it? And you like, they cannot understand. I'm like, I can't do that.
Well,
I need to do this.
it's funny you say that, because early on with like Emily and I dating, it was like one of those things of like, oh, you have an interview? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, and you're like, okay, you need to understand that like these opportunities might only come once.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
if I fuck this up,
Mhm.
like you just, but it's hard to visualize that, because like when you look at the machine, it's like 99% of people are going, they're making a wage, they're paying their taxes, they're doing whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And then you decide to be like this fucking albatross, and it's so easy for people to be like, yep, that guy lost his fucking mind.
Mhm.
Like, that guy lost his fucking mind. But it's the same when people try to be musicians. It's the same when people try to fucking act or do fucking whatever, right? Like any of these gig economy shit.
Mhm.
Like one of the chicks, she's like a media influencer, and she got to the point where she was able to like quit her full-time job.
Dang.
But it's like, dude, I could only imagine like how many people are like telling this chick like, yo, don't
Mhm.
fucking do, like the rug's gonna get pulled under you,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because it comes back to like, how bad do you want it? But not only that, of like how you're willing to deal with adversity and understanding that that level of adversity is like warranted.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Mhm.
it sucks that people are saying that it's never going to work, but I can understand why
For sure.
they're telling me.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just have to say,
They're not wrong.
yeah.
Like,
And then
this
you
is
just
a
have to say, like,
crazy
if
venture.
I was thinking, if you were thinking what I was, this is what I tell people all the time when they're like, oh, McDougal, like you're always talking about the podcast. Like anywhere I go, man, I'm like fielding guests.
Yeah.
Like anywhere I go, I'm like, oh yeah, I wish I had cards. I could like
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm always just like, the gears are turning.
You're in it
And-
24/7.
Yeah. And it's crazy because people go like, you're always like some people don't even want to work with me because they're like, you're always, and it's just too much. And you're like,
Yeah.
totally understandable.
Yeah.
But if you were in my head,
Mhm.
you would completely understand.
Yeah, and there would be no other option. This
Yeah.
is what I have to do this.
So talk about like going into like even podcasting and stand up, like what would you say, like, and on top of that, how hard it is to actually like gain like a monetary thing. But sometimes monetary things aren't like the metric of success. So like, where would you define like your metrics of success, or saying like, yeah, I'm doing a good job at podcasting. I'm doing a good job at stand up. Besides the monetary things,
Yeah.
what are you looking at when you're like deciding whether or not like you're actually being
progressing and-
successful?
Yeah. I like to go a little bit off the beaten path. I feel like the more traditional ones of like, if you were talking to, if you just polled comics, what they would tell you is like Instagram followers is like a big thing in comedy, in podcasting, be viewers. I go the other way. Like I was telling you, where I concentrate less on the amount of people that are listening to the podcast, but of those people that listen, who is it affecting? Like getting direct messages saying like, hey, that really impacted me, right? What I personally feel after it. Was that something I'm proud of? And then with comedy, I think a lot of times it's the response you get after shows are people coming up to you and saying like, man, that was really good. Like when you really do well on stage, you connect, like people want to come talk to you, right? And in your first few months of stand-up, that like almost never happens, but then you get a little bit better and you have those shows, and then you might have a show where you perform to a couple hundred people at the comic strip, and then at the end of that show you are being inundated with people coming up to you. That was so good, can I follow you? Like all those things, like you can feel that person responsive, like, oh, I wasn't getting this before, something is clicking, I'm getting better at this, I'm learning, I'm getting better. And I try to focus on that more, because everyone in the industry tells you, doesn't matter, do you have 30,000 followers, do you have 100,000 followers, all right, see you later.
Away.
Right? Yeah. That's essentially what, so, if you are a young comic, that's probably somewhere you should focus. I just think that's poison to art. If you start focusing more on getting followers than you are on getting better and impacting people in that way where people are coming up to you, I think
it's almost like cheap laughs.
Yeah, and like people can buy those followers. You see people come through the city all the time that have 80,000 followers because they are good with the algorithm and putting up clips and stuff, and you see them on stage and they're dog shit.
Or they just bought
terrible comics. And it's like, okay, well, I'd much rather, I don't care if he makes more money than me, if he has more followers than me. He's terrible at comedy. I care about comedy, right? Like I have no respect or care for this person, right? Like, some people might argue like, oh, I could have more success with the podcast if instead of having on like the local guys that I know are super funny but don't have followers, and I should target these guys that are, coming in to play these little theaters or some of the bigger clubs here that I think are terrible at comedy but have like 80,000 followers. Like, that would kill my soul.
You're
that would kill my soul. I could not do that. I do not want anyone to look at my podcast and go, oh, he had that guy on, like he's terrible. It's like, I agree.
And then not even that, it even like fucks you up, because it's also like, if I have this reservations about this person, like now I'm gonna sit here and like just talk my way through it, and like if I had any reservations, well, am I gonna be willing to like hold court and say like, hey, I think like you're not as good as like your followers say you are. Like, what do you have to say to that? And asking those tough questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like,
and as a comic, you would never do that, because once you start comedy,
it's like a family. Like,
yeah, and like you understand the stakes that you're playing with. Of like, it is so scary to go up there and risk bombing. Like you should have so much like inbuilt respect for someone, like actually like just being able to get up there and do that. Like, even if it's like one of those guys I was talking about where I think they're not very good at comedy, they're still, I hold them to a high esteem because they're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like they
had the courage to take the step.
Exactly. They're a man in the arena that's not, like there is that level, but then also it's just such a intimate, vulnerable thing. Every comic is so precious about their material. Like the thought of me going to someone that I did feel those and being honest with them, but like, hey, I think you kind of suck. Like, I just know how
like soul crushing it is.
Yeah, like I can't even wrap my, like I would never do that. I would not have them on. I would never approach the conversation, because that would be so abhorrent to me to have that conversation, and I would have to dance around it so hard that I'd rather just avoid it altogether, because I know how precious every comic is about their material and their skills on stage, that it's almost religious. Like, to ever fuck with that or question that, that's why comedy, the industry, is so fucked, because the only people willing to make judgment calls and like work around it aren't actually comics. All the comics are so precious about it. None of them actually build relationships and will be open and talk about it, right? Like, it's just comics either talk shit behind people's backs or keep their mouth shut.
Do you have like a moment or like a piece of criticism that followed you for a while, or like sat in your brain?
Like a criticism that I got?
Yeah, like either another comic or a heckle, or like some type of like criticism against your material that like really like sat with you, that you kind of like couldn't
get out. Yeah. And I'm trying to think, because I'm sure there must be, but nothing is jumping to mind. I feel like there's been some where they've kind of affected you in a way, because it's like, oh, I don't think that's true, but then it doesn't stick there very long, because it's like it didn't land to the core. Because I feel like if I got that, like the only ones I would say, and I'm struggling to pull an example, but I know there's a few people that I have like unique relationships are that kind of go out of that thing I just just said happen where nobody says anything. Like, I have a few friends where I'm close enough with them where we will have very open and tough conversations about our comedy and what we think about it. And some of those things have like really stung. It's not like it was something I couldn't get out of my head for months, but like, just like when you hear it's like, ooh, fuck, I needed to hear that. That was real. You know, like I should put more.
It's like a good, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I think some of them, like if I'm going back to them, it's just like, oh, I need to write more. Like I do a lot of comedy. I get on stage and I write, but I don't like do a lot of scheduled sitting down. Like every morning I wake up at 9 before I do anything. I write for an hour. I don't do a lot of that. Like it doesn't mean I don't write at all, but I kind of do it super sporadically. I'll sit down, something will come up to me, I'll write it in my phone, and then like before I take it to the stage, I'll like write out in a notebook, kind of expand it. But I think many people that I do respect have made very clear cases to me that I would take a bunch of steps forward as a comic if I added into my system some structured writing. And I agree with them. And
so what's in the way?
It's a great question. Laziness. Like,
do you think it's a level of like stubbornness where you're like, I have my system in place?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm like that too, where people go, you should probably do this, or you should, and I'm like maybe, but, and then I go back and then you're like, what the fuck do they know?
Yeah.
You know, or just something where you're just
I do that a lot, but in this one I do agree, and I think they're right, so I don't think it's that one. I do think it's more just like, it's like, where am I going to find the time? Like, I'm struggling to do so many things, like run all these shows and do this, that the thought, even though I know it will only benefit and add into those things and probably in the long run create time for myself, because I'll be growing in a way that will just add fire, add oxygen to the flames that I'm already burning if I did do that. But yeah, it just feels overwhelming of like, it's like adding video to the podcast.
Right.
Like, fuck, I got so much shit going on. It's hard to book and schedule. Now I got to call cameras around. Now I got to do this, figure it out.
Do you worry about like burnout or like hitting a tipping point where you're like,
yeah,
it's like, because I always think about something like this, like a House of Cards, where it's like, oh, like all it takes is like one dude for the other show to be like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, you just have to scrap the whole thing, because it just wouldn't like, even to like repurpose it. You're like, never mind.
Oh, yeah, no, the burnout thing is crazy. I feel like you experience burnout all the time. You're always battling through burnout. You're trying to find
you
new
doing the
ways
meditation probably helps a lot.
Yeah, but I don't do that as much as I probably should. Like I've gone from using meditation all the time and having it as a practice that I practice daily to now it's more before a big podcast, before a big show. I use it almost like surgically to help, like as a tool instead of
like religiously.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's gone from practice where like in the past, it has been a practice where I do it every day. And in the past, a bunch of things have exercise, meditation, like a good system like that. But I've fallen so far out of that. And that would be the number one thing that I need to do to help all these ventures grow and find their legs and take the next steps is getting a structured practice together where I am consistent with all those things that I know do help. But at this point, it's like I've bitten off so much. I've got so many.
You're like, I'm just literally like the flames literally just right behind me. And you're just kind of, I'm the same way where like I almost in a way bit off more than I can chew. And now it's like, well, now you just have to show up.
Yeah. Like, keep flying by the seat of your pants.
Because it's like, if I think about it too much, I'm going to scare myself. So I almost just have to like shut up and drive.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that very deeply.
One consideration that I have, especially when podcasting, is the idea of like, what work is good work? Like, because the only really thing that matters in essence is like the recording and having the episodes and getting them out, right? But I could sit on my computer for 8 hours and say I'm doing work.
Yeah.
And like the measurement for me of like what actually is turning out to be like functional, like, you know, shit, like tangible shit that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And am I putting in 4 hours and an hour of it actually be like tangible effort and 3 be bullshit, and then say I worked for 4 hours on it.
Oh yeah.
And like I always have to measure that of being like, what would be like something that I have to do to switch that? And I go back to like pen and paper now, where like I like try to stay away from like video games and shit like
Mhm.
that. But is there, even as a comment, like even as outside, like when you look and you say like, well, the only thing that really matters is this 5 minutes, but I could spend 12 hours thinking about my set.
Yeah.
It's like, what are things that actually like translate into like success from that like preemptive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the stand-up world, I think you nailed it pretty good. Of like, there's one moment, usually a day, where like it all comes down to, and the work you put in shows, right? And that can be a 5-minute set, or that can be a show, because it's very different. Doing stand-up comedy and show running are two very separate skills. So you can put a lot of effort. That's where I find I put a lot of effort in, is running shows, of making sure I'm putting that thought into the lineup. I don't struggle in the same way, where I'm more likely to, instead of to kind of half fuck around with work where it's not really like where I'm making it look like busy work, I'll fuck off completely. I'll go on YouTube for 4 hours and then be like, oh fuck, I got to do all this shit, and I'll be super productive for 30 minutes and get a bunch of
I'm the
shit done.
exact
But I'm
same
not
way.
lying to myself being like, oh, I was on the computer for 4 hours. It's just like, I know I'm very aware of myself. Like, I'm not trying to pretend I'm doing more than I'm doing, but I definitely should be doing more, right? Like, I just don't have the issue of trying to figure out when. I'm very cognizant of when I'm being productive and when I'm not, but I am very unproductive a lot of the time.
And sometimes it's also too like, sometimes 30 minutes is all you need, because whatever I put down, I go, if I touch this again, I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like if I overthink this and I like overcook it,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna start poking holes in where holes don't need to be poked into.
Yeah.
And now I'm just getting out, like I read a question 7 times or whatever it is, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna ask it this way, and then I ask it the way that I fucking overthought about, and it doesn't land. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
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 And you're just like, man, I knew that what my gut feeling was telling me was
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm very good at following my gut. I
Yeah.
learned that in business more than anything. Like when I was running that company, that was where it really sunk into me, because you have so many voices, especially because I was coming in as a younger kid and there was all these people that are way older than you, way more experienced. And I wouldn't trust my gut. I would go with the will of everybody else, right? Which is I think a good leadership quality is to listen to people and take in. But then I would follow how it worked out, of like, hey, I thought my gut was that we should have done this, or that this person was bad, they need to be fired, or that this person could handle more responsibility. But then you take in all the info and you go forward, and it was like, oh, that was a bad call. I should have trusted my gut. And then that happens enough times. Or it's like, this is what my gut says, but you work for corporate. Corporate says, nope, this is what you're doing. And it turns out to fuck you. And over time, it reached a point, especially like when I was getting close to, one of my darkest times before I started podcasting, it reached a point where it's like, shit has gotten really fucked up, and I've really fought against trusting my gut. Going forward, my gut is the law, right? If my gut tells me to do something, I'm going to follow. I'm still going to listen to people. I'm still going to do that. But
it's like, if you feel it's not right, it's probably not right.
yeah,
And
just
it's kind of that
having
simple.
faith in yourself, that I think that has stayed with me. I feel like, especially in comedy, I do comedy and run shows very differently than anybody else. But it's like, this is what my gut tells me in the long run will pay off, and it is good, and has been very much showing over the last 6 months to a year. The shows we're putting on are at such a high level. They're the best shows in the city, right? Every poster, every comic will say, oh, this is the best show in the city. But the comics that actually go out to all the shows know it's true. It's like, oh no, the shows at the Moon are the best shows in the city. None really come close, at least not consistently. It might be a one-off where you just catch fire. It's a magic night, good bright people in the room, right comics on the show, and it's a great show. Nobody's consistently putting on the shows like we're doing. It's not even close, right? And that's like, oh, well, we've worked really hard. We've put in a lot of effort to make that the case. And then now with this opportunity for October 6th to then take that, all that knowledge, all those skills of how to put on the best show possible, how to book the best comics, all the relationships we built up. Now we get to take that to some place like the comic strip, which is just something that we hold in a super high esteem and think is one of the best comedy clubs in the world. They just need a great, like that stage, the logistics of that room, the way it's laid out, like you can make magic in there. And now we have access to take all of our skills, all of our learnings, and apply it there, and just see what we can do. And I'm so excited for it. But that was built up to over years of trusting your gut, not listening to outside voices, and just following a vision and a path.
Yeah, it's definitely something where you have to look back to and kind of give yourself, like, even though it's like this might be like you still have so much to go, but it's like you almost have to look back to and be like, yeah, but I also accomplished like this much with the time I had. And it's this weird divide of like how much am I pushing forward and going like, I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there. And then also being able to look back and say like, but you can also give yourself the credit of being and it's a very hard like inflection point of being like, because you don't want to like lose steam, and you don't want to be like, I'm going to sit with this, right? This is good. I'm happy with this. Zooming out a bit and looking at like our conversation as a whole, what would you say like the biggest piece of advice that you would have gave like yourself when you started this that you think you really need to tell yourself?
Great question. I already have like 4 different answers I could give. Before I do, is any of these drinks for me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm getting a little
Anything
dry.
you want.
And then what are the odds I can hit that vape?
Vape?
Do you want me to wait till after?
No. You go for it, man. Yeah.
Beautiful.
By all
I'm about
means.
to get comfy and answer this question.
Do whatever you want, man.
All right. I would say the biggest piece of advice I would give myself is to be humble in figuring out, just like I had learned this lesson so many times over the years, but you just don't know how much you don't know. Like when I started that first show at Sherlock's, I was so confident that I knew what I was doing and I was going to put on the best show, and got so kicked in the teeth by how difficult it was, how many weird, nuanced little like comedy specific lessons. Like I thought, oh, I've run like a very large business. I've had all these employees. I can run a small comedy show at a bar, like no problem. This is a piece of piss. And then you get in there and you realize, oh, I was completely wrong. Like just going into it with more humbleness and being more open to understanding that I don't know what I'm talking about in this one specific realm. I think that's very important. I think understanding going into it that people are not going to like you. I struggle a lot with that. I grew up in a small town where you have relationships with everybody. Everyone's maybe not friends, but you know of everybody. Like it's a place full of love. And then you enter into comedy, which is kind of taking people from the fringes of society, pushing them all together. It's incentivized for people not to help. There's a lot of darkness. I think if I was more aware of that, like I battled through it and created my own spaces and found places like the Moon where you can create a space where people will be nicer and more kind and supportive, and we can all kind of build each other up. But I think having to work through that, understanding like, oh, that's not going to exist unless you build it. Right? I think that was frustrating for me for a while, was trying to bang my head against the wall, trying to find people that wanted to be collaborative and wanted to truly like help everybody. And if you're that person that's trying to be that change that you want to see, it puts a big target on your back, and a lot of people are not going to like it, and you're going to have to deal with that. And I'm a very soft, emotional guy. I don't like when people dislike me, and they're obviously not going to say, oh, I don't like what you're doing. They're going to come up, they're going to attack personal things. They're going to go after that, right? And that's just what you got to deal with. I think if I had a time machine, I could go back, I would just emotionally and mentally prep myself for what it's going to be. I would say don't do anything different. Dig in your heels, go harder, like believe in yourself even more, because eventually it will turn out. But just be ready. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt. It's going to be mean. People are not going to be very kind to you. And if you can get through that and not let that drag you down as much along the way, you'll enjoy the process more, because I'm so lucky that I get to do what I get to do. I get to put on these amazing shows. I get to work with such amazing people. I get to watch these comics grow and gain skills and get funnier and funnier, and not even get funnier, but just tap into themselves more. So more of that true funny that you've got to see for years, you know, after shows and before shows start to come out on stage and they're tapping into it. That's so rewarding to me. I love that more than almost anything. Like, I could go on a show, be an awesome audience that like normally you'd be so jealous you weren't on, but I can watch all my friends go on and crush and just be so proud of them and enjoy them that like I don't even feel, or any of the negative emotions or jealousy I might feel are so overwhelmed by my happiness for the other ones. Like I'm very grateful for that. I just think at different times along this journey, there were dark times where it felt pretty shitty to go through and people were pretty unkind and pretty evil, I would say. Like, I think there's, you know, for the most part, comics are just insecure people, but then there's a few that are just genuinely bad human beings.
But the thing is,
and they
too,
can cause a lot of...
You get that, like, and what's crazy about that is that's absolutely true, but it's like, if you went to fucking work at Costco, there's probably someone just like that.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? That wants to fuck around, that wants to piss in your cornflakes, that's a fucking miserable person. They hate their job. Because I have the same problem where you have guys where you're like, yo, like, why is this dude such a fucking cunt? Like, I have no idea. And then you're like, but if I went anywhere, it's just a human nature that there's just one guy that can't fucking see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's absolutely true. Cause I think it brings like this level of like, am I doing the right thing? Is this the type of person I need to be?
Yeah.
And it's this weird thing. But then if you zoom out and recognize, like, there's a piece of shit everywhere. You know, like, regardless where people work, you can literally ask anybody that works any job and say, name the employee that everybody hates.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to do it. So, and what's fucked up is like, people narrow it down to like, yo, this means I can't be a good comic because like, I'm not willing to be a piece of shit or I'm not willing to play dirty. But it's like, no, man, there's people that are still able to like strive and like get above that.
For sure.
It's just shitty humans.
And that's why I'm so thankful for podcasts, because it gave me going into it the knowledge and the almost the solace that there are people out there that are doing this differently, that aren't, you know, just tearing everybody down so they can get that leg up, that have conquered that insecurity to the fact that they can be happy for others. That does exist out there. I think it's very unique because Canada is much different than the States. To get an entertainment visa to get down to the States where all the actual money is, all the success, like all those things that probably the average person on the street would point to as success, it is borderline impossible to do in Canada. You could grind your whole life, do 20 years to be like a touring Canadian comic that would make enough money to support yourself, but that's about the cap. Anything past that, you have to get to the US. So then everything is caged in this way where like, the American comedy scene went through a podcast revolution where it's not like all the power got taken away from the clubs, but so much more power got put in the hands of comics to build each other up, to help this kind of independent route that you can still find success in. And that never happened in Canada. In Canada, the only one thing you can do is get to the States. So now you have these entertainment visas. So now you want an entertainment visa. Well, you need these check boxes. So you need to have done these festivals that are ran by non-comics that are just, you know,
and then they gatekeep it.
Gatekeepers, right? There's so many gatekeepers involved that you have to change yourself. If you want to be successful in Canada, you almost have to become what they want you to be. And I think that is death to comedy. What comedy is genuinely bringing yourself and what you find funny to the stage. As soon as you let anything impact that, you've gone adrift. You're now going further and further away from what you would truly do if that didn't exist. Right. So it's like trying to, from what I've seen is now, you got to create your own space. You have to create your own opportunities and build your own way. Right. And that's all I've pursued. And that all these people that have maybe invested 10, 15 years of their life understanding like, no, this is just the way it is. You have to accept it. And then someone starts and goes, I don't accept that at all. I think that's bullshit. I'm going to call it bullshit and start my own things. That makes some real deep insecurities come out, and that brings some venom out of people. And it's just, you have to understand that and work through it and just try and keep put on amazing things. And I think just specifically right now with this opportunity we have on October 6th to bring all the love we put into shows, all these lessons we've learned to a place like the comic strip that has had amazing comedians like Bobby Lee, Burt Kreischer, like all these people going back decades and decades that have performed on that stage. Now we get to bring it there. Like that's a huge opportunity that a lot of people, maybe 2 years ago when I was talking, I've talked like this since I started comedy, since I've started podcasting. I've had this idea and sense of self-belief that I could do these things. And everyone's like, oh no, you'll never do that. That's stupid. It's like, well, look at me now, right? Like almost if I could have that time machine to go give myself advice, I might pop over to a few other people and go, just wait to see what I do.
Wait until this, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Watch this.
Yeah.
Watch this.
It is very interesting, and it's definitely like credit to like the Edmonton comedy scene as well.
Yeah, and Edmonton has the best comedy scene in Canada. Nobody comes close. Yeah, Vancouver's got the population. Toronto's got the population. You want to go
like here we have the
per
culture.
capita, bar for bar.
Yeah.
Edmonton comics smoke anywhere else. There's amazing comics all over Canada at the top end, but you take out, there's no comedy scene where you can take out the top 30 best comics out of it and still put on like great shows, right? Like Toronto and Vancouver have so much comedy that like they're probably the closest next matches because just on volume. But like, what does Edmonton have? 1 million people, and we have 50, 60 great comics that are like can do show and are worth having a paid show with them on it. Like that's unheard of, right? Like there might be 50, 60 decent comics in all of Toronto and Vancouver that are 2, 3, 4 times the size, like population base and amount of shows you can have. It's crazy, but I think Edmonton has a little something special that happens here and happens nowhere else.
That's right. Before we finish off, where can everybody find you? What do you have going on? What's next? You said October 6th. What else do you have?
Yeah, October 6th is the biggest one. If anybody can come out to that, that's going to be a great show. Kind of, if you want to see the amalgamation of everything we've been working on, go see that show. But every week we have shows all the time at the Moon. I'm very partnered into the Moon. That is somewhere where I've just decided to put all my effort towards and help them. They deserve the support. They create an amazing space where everyone is welcome. Tuesdays we do a comedy workshop there where all the comics come in. They can do new jokes, and then all the comics in the room will help work on them, give them tags, give them specific advice, especially for the new people that are starting, where they would probably have to go through a couple of years of comedy before even when anyone would give them enough time to maybe tell them one thing. Like, hey, have you noticed you do this weird thing with your hand? Like you were completely on your own normally. But I didn't like that, so we created this space where everyone can kind of, lead by example, and I'm very open with my feedback, and then it creates space. Oh, if he's doing it, then I can. And everybody has a lot to say, but comedy just beats you down to not say anything. Just let everyone struggle on their own. They'll figure it out. So we do that on Tuesday. If you're a real comedy nerd, come to that and you will have your eyes open. If you want to try comedy, if you're thinking about it, come to that and just watch. You will learn so much about comedy and how it works that you can almost, in one night of coming to a good workshop on a Tuesday, you can like do 3 months. You can get 3 months of comedy knowledge in one night.
Yeah, I'd almost just want to come sit on it.
Yeah, just come check it out.
Yeah, just to meet new people, fucking be able to do my best to like champion what everybody has going on. And then if I can get the balls to do something, then, but yeah, I would definitely like to check that out. I think that would be amazing. Yeah. I'm always trying to get around to more different things and like just kind of like extending myself to like the outer community, and like it informs like what I'm trying to do, as well as like it's amazing just getting out of your own comfort zone. And we'll also put all of like the information for you.
Huge.
You send us all of the links and stuff, and we'll put all of that into the description below
for sure. And for people that are listening to that, following the Moon Yag, all one word, on Instagram, that's the best way to see all the shows of the Moon. We have a show every Sunday. The Sunday show is kind of the tentpole show. I run those 3 shows in a night that I was talking about. It's called The Asylum. Those are amazing. We've had a bunch of comics that have only started in maybe the last year and a half that are really bought into kind of the entire mindset we've been talking about here and wanting to put on great shows, that have started putting on amazing shows there. So if you follow the Moon Yag, you'll see all the shows going on there. If it's comedy and it's being put on at the Moon, you're going to have a good time. Go check it out. It'll be an awesome show because there's a standard there of what we bring. But if you're not a weed person, it might not be for you. Every once in a while we do smokeless shows there that you can come check out if you just want to come see the space and kind of the environment we're trying to create. The comic strip is amazing. You go there all the time, but anywhere. I usually post all my stuff on Instagram, Nick VonDub on Instagram. I'll post all my dates because there's so many amazing shows all over the city. And it's not like I'm on any specific one every second week or anything. It's kind of random when you're going to be on which show, but I'm always posting about it in my stories, and that if you want to come check me out, follow that. And then the podcast, the VonDubCast on Instagram. It's on all Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those things. I've been doing it for a long time, 5 years, 300 and some episodes.
307.
307 episodes.
Yeah.
And
a lot to catch up on. 2x speed.
Yeah, exactly. Crank it up.
2x speed. Yeah. Nick, man, this was amazing. The door's always open for you here. I can't wait to link up with you in another couple months. Hopefully we can get I can try to do like a Joe Rogan, Duncan Trussell, get us in some fucking, I don't know, some wetsuits or something.
I'll be down.
Yeah,
I'll be down.
Fucking right.
Yeah, we'll let the weather get a little colder so we're not sweating our bags off as hard.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll book something here in the winter and fucking get some old Roman costumes or something.
I'd be so down for that.
Yeah. This has been a pleasure. Everybody go check out Nick. Doing amazing things. The passion's evident. You've been pumping out content. The work speaks for itself. And like, I'm so grateful and happy to have this conversation with you. And I'm wishing you the best. And we're going to use whatever power we have as a channel to fucking keep it going, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's, I love doing podcasts and I love having people on mine.
Yeah.
And I think I was telling you when we first connected, there's nothing like getting to come on as a guest where I know I don't have to have my list of questions. I don't have to have my bus driver outfit on, where no matter what's happening in the conversation, I got to drive it just to sit back, relax, and listen to you talk. I got to chill. I love this. This is my favorite thing. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. If you ever want to have me back, I'll be back in a heartbeat in whatever outfit you want me to be in.
Awesome, man. With that has been Solo Spotlight. Check him out on all his social medias and be sure to check out his October 6th show.
Yeah, Moon Monday at the Comic Strip.
Yeah, Moon Monday at the Comic Strip. Don't forget to follow us at Spare Bedroom Studio. Like, subscribe, share. Come out to a comedy workshop. Go see your favorite comedy show. And check out the VonDubCast. Supporting either of us helps keep these conversations going and provides you some actual content that lasts and impacts. I'm your host, Ryan, and we'll see you next time.
Suck some ass.
Suck some ass.